So things are getting interesting as we head into the reveal numbers for Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake. The game recently launched as of the time that I'm recording this video, but there's been discussion about exactly how big this game is going to be, how it's going to do, especially in Japan, and what's going on with the Nintendo Switch just in general when it comes to the longevity of the late game's release, because I saw a very interesting post that I wanted to talk a bit more about the commercial viability that we're seeing with some of the late RPGs and other titles coming out on the Nintendo Switch. So we're going to get into that and a bit more, but before we do, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get my Nintendo Switch RPG videos, live streams, and more first as soon as they drop. Now let's go ahead and jump right into this because there's been some new updates when it comes to Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake and the surprise that we've seen in the PC market when it comes to sales, especially on Steam for Square Enix. So I did get this from RPG Fan on Twitter, and they talked about the stats when you compare Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake compared to all the previous Dragon Quest games and their popularity at launch. So going from the bottom to the top, I'm going to put up this graph for you guys so you can see when they talk about it. And obviously the 24-hour peaks for many of these games aren't great because they're old overall. I did take a look individually at each of these when it comes to Dragon Quest XI, Definitive Edition, and when it comes to all the other ones, and they're a bit higher, but none of them eclipse the peak of what we've seen with Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake. And I just wanted to add in a little post-edit credit because Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake has also added to its lead. 37,000 is what we had for the video, but it's actually up to 43,000 plus as of the time that I am after editing wise. So yeah, it's continuing to go up. It's continuing to get even better. Let's see where it goes by the end of the weekend. That is a Dragon Quest record when it comes to overall. Now, 65% of the players come from Japan. So by far, this is the most engaged that anybody in Japan has been with the Dragon Quest game on the PC platform. It's 64.7 in Japan, 8% or so in the US, and about 26% when it comes to other territories. So definitely when it comes to the Steam numbers, people in Japan are holding it down. Now, 37,000, that's obviously not a massive number when it comes to the console side of things, but you have to figure this. If it's 37,000 and breaking records when it comes to the Dragon Quest franchise on the PC platform, which isn't traditionally known for being big for Dragon Quest, what do you think it's going to do on PlayStation and especially the Nintendo Switch? And that's the big thing that I wanted to transition to, because things are setting up for Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake to have one of the biggest launches for a classic Dragon Quest game re-released. So shout outs to Tokyo Game Life over there on Twitter as well, and they said that Dragon Quest III on Switch was sold out at multiple stores I visited today in Tokyo. I guess some things never change. Yeah, Dragon Quest is always big. Now, I've always been wary about the whole sellouts before launch, because this is what people try to do to make it seem like something is exploding when people are trying to say that it's not going to do as well. But obviously Dragon Quest is not in the same category as that because it's an established franchise. So I'm always wary on reporting on the sellouts or things like that. But the reason why I brought this one up is because Dragon Quest has a long storied history of selling incredibly well. And even if you look at Dragon Quest, the Dark Prince game, that one did way better than I even thought that it would do in Japan. It's already over 1 million units sold worldwide, but in Japan, that first week of launch, it sold like 350,000 plus units. It was incredible to see. So if that as a side game can sell that on the Nintendo Switch by itself, now you have one of the best Dragon Quest games remade and everything. I think 300,000 units might be the least amount that it could sell. We could be seeing on the Nintendo Switch by itself 400, 500,000 units for this game, especially when you factor in digital sales. And then you have to factor in, well, it's coming on PlayStation as well. So it should pick up units there because Dragon Quest is still big on PlayStation as well. So I think that things are definitely looking good when it comes to the sales prospects for Dragon Quest in pretty much every region, but Japan is still going to be the behemoth for this type of game. Now, we are getting a little bit of updates on some of the other things On Amazon, we have Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake. It's in at number 11, although there's multiple copies of like Madden and like Batman, MetaQuest VR, and some other things. So it's actually within the top 10 if you're not counting duplicate games. You head over to Amazon Japan's best sellers. Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake is absolutely killing it with the top 3 spots. You actually have 2 separate versions of the Nintendo Switch version of the game in the top 3, and of course the PlayStation 5 version rounding it out at number 2. So it's ready for a massive launch as well, just supporting what's going on here in the West. But we all know that Dragon Quest is always the top dog when it comes to Japanese sales, and you're seeing that very early and often. Like I kind of said before, when you see that even Steam is having a massive launch, one of the better launches ever, where you're seeing 30-something thousand, nearly 40,000 even on Steam, which is not the platform of choice for Dragon Quest fans, you know that it's going to transfer over massive to the other platforms. But this is definitely a good thing. Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, I actually talked about the reviews controversy and some of the other stuff with it. It's got about a low to mid 80 score depending on what platform you're playing on. But when it comes to the most reviewed platform, the PlayStation 5, it has an 84 average. So definitely not bad at all, and people are excited and getting ready for Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, which brings me to the next thing that I kind of wanted to talk about here. With some stats with Dragon Quest III on Steam, at least, it's got the highest player count ever for a Dragon Quest game. It's got the highest player count ever for a single player Square Enix title. So just player count from the launch there. It also peaked at number 1 global top seller on Steam. So that's from Kami over there on Twitter as well. So it's a very good start for Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake. I'm very much looking forward to the game and playing more. I just really have to lock in and beat Metaphor Refantasio. I'm 130-something hours in, and I'm fighting this optional boss that's taken me a few tries here and there on the hard difficulty, but I'll get past that. I'll hopefully beat that game this weekend, then be able to dive into Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake very soon here. But I wanted to get into this a bit more because I saw a post on Twitter. I couldn't necessarily find it as of the time that I was recording the video, but I saw a post when it came to what Stealth said about Mario and Luigi Brothership on the Nintendo Switch and the sales. Despite it being number 1 in the Famitsu sales for the past week, it was definitely lower than a lot of the previous Mario and Luigi games that opened up. And the quote tweet of that was someone saying, oh, well, Nintendo Switch sales haven't been crazy for quite some time. And then, of course, you got people talking about, okay, Switch 2 is coming up and all this other stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's true. Definitely, if you look at the Switch games for the past year or so, there really hasn't been any massive, huge, oh my gosh, this thing sold like crazy at the beginning. The best-selling game so far for the Nintendo Switch platform when it comes to big titles would be like The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. That's had the best launch that I can think of for a Switch title in 2024. That moves us over here to Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, and that's the thing that I put under the post. I was like, yeah, we haven't really had too much anything crazy right now, but wait till something that people are really anticipating and looking forward to launches. That's where you're going to see the 100,000s plus when it comes to sales. Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake definitely is going to hit that mark and then some. But yeah, if you're looking at a lot of the games, these are not the biggest titles that are coming out this year on the Nintendo Switch, as the system kind of fades into a little bit more of the sunset and retirement to make way for the Nintendo Switch 2. But I would expect Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake to have an absolutely massive launch in Japan. And I think that's going to be very good overall for the health of the series, for the franchise, as we kind of take care of Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake in addition to Dragon Quest I and II HD-2D Remake. And then they can finally get into what's going to be happening with Dragon Quest XII, and that's something that I'm definitely excited about. I want to talk just a little bit more about. We don't know a ton of Dragon Quest XII at this point, but I will say this, I do think that it does link up to the Nintendo Switch 2. I've done videos on that before. I think that one of the reasons why they are being pretty much radio silent, Square Enix has read the room. They have read what's going on in Japan. Dragon Quest is still a massive Japan first type of franchise. Although they are now launching worldwide, they still factor in and consider what Japanese gamers are thinking of, and of course people who love Japanese style games. And I think that it would be absolutely a bad move for the overall health of Dragon Quest going forward if you don't have a built-in, regular, standard, default, portable version of that game right there at launch for the Japanese gamers. And I think that's one of the reasons why they want to wait a bit and put the impact when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2. Because if you launch that game, like let's say Nintendo Switch 2 comes out in 2025 at some point, let's just say mid 2025. I'm just guessing, hypotheticals here, guys. Just it comes out at some point. And then Dragon Quest XII is one of the games that's first shown off with it, and then maybe you can pick it up later in 2025 or early 2026 or whenever it does launch. That's going to be a huge boost, not only for the Nintendo Switch 2, but also for Square Enix. People are going to rush to be able to play it anywhere that they want without doing some type of PS Portal thing or a Logitech G Cloud or weird type of Steam Deck type of thing, your PC plus Steam Deck, and doing that. They just want to be able to play between handheld and TV mode, and that's the reason why so many big RPGs have been successful in Japan on the Nintendo Switch. I think that's going to be one of the key points for Square Enix and for Dragon Quest XII, and I think that we're going to see a little bit of that when you guys see the sales numbers for Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake on the Nintendo Switch. So what's the prospects after all of this? Because yes, Dragon Quest III, obviously we're all excited and we're going to play it, you know, reviews, controversy, whatever the case is. What's the prospects of them having something big for us to be shown off when it comes to Dragon Quest XII? Nintendo and Square Enix have a history of revealing Dragon Quest, a history of debuting it when it comes to a new game on a new platform, or at least a new game done in a new type of way. I mean, we saw that with Dragon Quest XI. That was announced for the NX. They're saying, hey, look, it's coming to the NX, which was awesome to hear. It's like, whoa, it's going to be on Nintendo's new platform. I know the Wii with Dragon Quest X, that was something, it's a new style of MMO type of game. It's coming to a platform that's kind of weird overall with the Wii. But yeah, Dragon Quest X coming to there. We've seen various Dragon Quest remakes and other titles on Nintendo portable systems and handhelds over the years. And of course, Dragon Quest XI-S, Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, that seems to be the de facto best edition of the game, which was built specifically for the Nintendo Switch. It was not a port of the PlayStation 4 game or the Nintendo 3DS game. What they did is that they built that game within Unreal Engine 4 for the Nintendo Switch, which is interesting because if you play that game on any other platform, it actually looks worse than the original PlayStation 4 game because they ported the game to other platforms based off the Nintendo Switch code. So it's just interesting to see that the new edition of the game can visually look a little bit worse overall, even on stronger platforms, because they use the Switch as a base. And I think that going forward, Square Enix knows, after looking at the sales of Dragon Quest XI, looking at the sales of Dragon Quest The Dark Prince, looking at the sales of Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake on the Switch, I think that they're going to say, okay, we got to make sure that this is all set, ready to go on the Nintendo Switch 2. So I think that's one of the reasons why there's been such big radio silence, because it is going to be a massive game to help boost the Nintendo Switch 2, and of course to ensure that Square Enix can sell enough copies, because you can't really rely when it comes to Japanese RPGs, especially turn-based games. If you're going to do something like that, you can't really rely on the PlayStation 5 to be able to sell enough, and you sure as heck can't rely on PC and on Xbox to sell copies of the game for this type of title, especially in Japan with how the dynamics of the systems and what's going on there. So I fully expect that to be something coming off the heels of Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, Dragon Quest I and 2, but we're gonna have to wait and see on that, guys. I'm excited to get into the future of what's happening for Dragon Quest, and of course excited for Dragon Quest fans now at this point with Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake. So what do you guys think overall about everything that we discussed when it comes to the game? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this one here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG content and more right here on screen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.